What up, what up, what up? What's up, everybody? Erin Coscarelli back with you. Welcome to Bleav in Rams, part of the Bleav Network. It's the off season, and usually coaches are not as busy, which is amazing. We were able to get this particular coach today. The Rams director of strength and conditioning, Justin Lovett, is joining us. Justin, thank you so much for making the time. I'm so excited to have this chat with you. How are you? You're in Maui.
Yes, we're enjoying some mandatory work out here in Maui, so we appreciate the opportunity that you're giving us as well.
Yeah, I mean, when they said mandatory Maui camp, what was your reaction to that?
I think selfishly, it was pretty exciting for Coach McVay to get an opportunity to be with the team, keep building on his foundations in a unique setting, foundations of football philosophy as well as culture in a special setting. I think the other bigger picture would be the similarities of communities that have gone through some fires, and so that's the bigger picture where the Rams brand comes into play, and the Kevin Demoff and the Secretary of Transportation and Tourism in Hawaii, where their communities really resonated with each other. So the community is pretty excited for the Rams to be here, and so are we. And it seems like kindred spirits from the folks in LA that have went through a similar fight with the fires, and then the people of Maui. So there's a genuine excitement that we're here, and it's cool to be in proximity to watch how these folks in community relate and watch the players and how they're impacted by them. It's pretty cool to see.
I mean, what a special partnership. It seemed as though the Rams, I want to say their ethos is defiantly original. And of course, Kevin Demoff, your president, has seemingly led the way with these really cool initiatives, partnerships, the draft being held at the LAFD, and now you guys partnering with Hawaii Tourism. I think it's particularly interesting and impactful because it's weaving itself in with the LA community, as you were aware of. We were just completely devastated by the wildfires back in January, and to see that they're using their draft platform, they're using their mandatory mini camps in this way, just kind of showcases the uniqueness about the Rams and how special this team really is, which is why I was, again, very grateful you were able to make time for us, because I do want to talk to you all things. We're here with Justin Lovett. He is the director of strength and conditioning. We are here in Los Angeles. Of course, he's in Maui, but like all things health, wellness, recovery, rehab, strength training, these are all things that are very in line with us LA people. So we're going to get to that in a minute. But really quickly, I had asked a couple of questions. I'm just curious, for people that are maybe the more casual fan, what would you say exactly the strength and conditioning coach, what does that mean exactly, Justin?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's responsible for implementation, facilitation, collaboration on anything that relates to player performance and availability. So that could be weight room, field work. To a certain extent, we're collaborating with sports medicine and various stages of return to play when injured players are working their way back to the field. There are elements where we support our dietitian, Seb Zorn, and it's all under the direction of Reggie Scott, our vice president of performance. And through this position, it's really a spoke in the wheel. It's a cog in the gears. So strength conditioning has a lot of outreach and hands in a lot of different parts of performance, but yet we don't function without sports medicine or our dietitian or operations or equipment. It's all very collaborative and integrated and symbiotic, if you will. So the long of the short is we impact players in the weight room, we impact players on the field, and then at various times throughout the year, we're activated in different ways to support or enhance our efforts.
Yeah. Which is such a obviously an important component of a game like football. It's such a mind body. It's so physical. It's so enduring. There's pressure mentally and physically, and that's why it's unbelievable that someone like you being able to have access to sort of pick your brain with what the team, went through last year, what they're going to go through this year. And I was hoping to be able to touch on a little bit of that. But before we get into some of that stuff, I was curious to get your take from your perspective, your optics. What is McVay actually like as a coach? Because Devontae, we were interviewing him last week when he was at OTAs, and he really spoke so highly of him as a coach. He mentioned the positive environment that he said it's not like it's a dark cloud looming over the building, and we're kind of speculating. I wonder what team he was referring to. I mean, it seems like Coach McVay really prioritizes the community and the environment of his players.
Yeah, you're right. He's a dynamic personality. He's authentic and genuine. So what you see and what you hear from him, he's a lot of times he'll tell the team that he's talking to himself, and so he's in it with the team. So there's that level of genuine care is unmatched. Obviously, the football tactician gets a lot of run, and it's well noted and completely valid from a football standpoint. But I think, in addition to his personality, his character traits that are elite. He does what he says what he does. And if he doesn't, he's transparent enough to admit it. And that gives a lot of grace to our players when things will go right on Sundays. Coach will stand up there and say, look, I didn't put you guys in the best play call. That's on me. And the players might feel, yeah, that is on you. Or they might feel like, no, we got to make that play. But just being transparent and open with his communication, I found was illuminating. And the other thing I think that he doesn't get a lot of credit for, not that, maybe the football junkies out there might consider an advantage, is he views things through a performance lens. So he sees it through, a lens that he can share with Reggie Scott, that he can share with myself from a performance standpoint, from a sports science standpoint. For example, if the performance team would advocate for so many yards on wide receivers, and a certain percentage of those yards would be high speed yards, that makes sense to Coach McVay, and he can script it out to check the box for performance. Whereas in my experience, I think that is a very difficult lane to cross. And, football coaches and performance science aspects and elements sometimes don't mix, or they mix like cats and dogs. And so it becomes siloed. You do this, I'll do that, and then we'll find out where we land. With Coach McVay, it's all integrated, and that is powerful. So when I took this job 5 years ago, it felt like, oh man, if I just stay within the guidelines of what Reggie Scott's putting together, if I just stay under the direction and actively lean in to how Coach McVay sees things, we're going to be all right. And I think that I see that every day, and I don't take it for granted, because it's unique in this sport. It's unique in this space to be as well versed as he is in culture, in
Totally.
your tactical builds out, your tactical build outs of your performance plan, of obviously X's and O's on a football field, and making real time game adjustments on Sundays. It's fascinating to me to watch that guy work, and fortunate to be here working with him another year until he kicks me out.
I mean, it is kind of like a pinch me job, because even just in the media, getting to cover him, he does make our job so easy in the sense of his enthusiasm, his positivity. He's open. One of the things, when you mention he's transparent, there was a great article about him in the New York Times released, I want to say a week ago, talking about how he felt in what was it, January of 20, I forget, it was the 2022 season, and he just felt like that's it. And meanwhile, the year before, he was the youngest Super Bowl winning coach. I mean, I appreciate someone of his, of success, his metric of success. Us little people, when we hear people have that, their own internal struggles, it's relatable, right?
I do feel that way. And even I can speak from my perspective and not the players, but even when he talks about like those situations, or about the environment that was 2022 and the adversity that was faced by the team, injuries and performance, and nobody felt good about that season. But for him to openly talk about it in front of the team in the similar way he talks about it in front of the media, I think allowed all of us to gain a little bit of clarity of what that was for us. Because I think in this business where it's win or get out, or it's you last a little bit of time and then your team wins too much and you're out the door. If they lose too much, you're out the door. I think there's a transient mercenary aspect to this job, whether you're a position coach, a strength coach, especially a head coach, and even our GM and personnel directors. I think it's fascinating to live in a moment where he can speak to real emotions and feelings and process what he went through in 2022, because I think we all felt a certain way about it. It helped reset the narrative, and that's what I would say that was most powerful, is resetting the narrative and reshaping what could have been a cloud that hangs over, or it turned into a catalyst of what we have evolved into under his leadership. So I would think that we're more resilient because of that 2022 season from a coaching staff. I think some of the players that were still there from 2022, they have felt our coaches lean in to some of the adversity and some of the stress. And that comes back to the culture of what Sean McVay has built here. And he's done since well before I got here in when he got here in 2017. And I love to hear Andrew Whitworth talk on it. He talks on it often about his friendship with Coach McVay, and he'll speak about the X's and O's are great, but the one identifiable trait that he didn't expect and maybe he thought was surprising at how powerful and how much it resonated was a young coach leaning into the culture. And from my experience, Sean hasn't wavered. It's just evolved his message to be even more organic and transparent. He meets his players where they're at, meets his team where they're at. And I think that's powerful. That's unique. That's a unicorn type of skill set.
Yeah. And it almost makes what you guys went through last year, starting 1-4, doable, right? Because you're saying that dark cloud, you guys didn't feel it last season, or maybe you did. But when you mentioned resilience, you're like, hey, we've been through this. We've been battle tested like this before.
Yeah. I would say it's week to week. So you're not too up or you're not too down. And that's what our coaches are talking to the team about. But in the same sense, there's a quiet confidence of you have faith in your processes. You have faith in how Coach McVay and the coaching staff are going to put us in situations, put our team in situations to be successful. And when you have confidence and you have faith and you have consistency of messaging across the board and you have transparent communication, then you have a certain calmness about, you can be 1-4, but you can still be a confident and dangerous football team. And so it was a privilege to be a part of that and see that response from the players and the leadership from our coaching staff.
Yeah. And that's, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I want to get into that. So again, here with Justin Lovett, he is the Rams Director of Strength and Conditioning, which is a very important position, coaching position, I would imagine, when you have an NFL team like the Los Angeles Rams, who won their division last year. Okay, speaking of division and actually just speaking in general with the NFL, you guys have the second most travel miles this year. Coming number one is the Chargers, which is also an LA-based team. So how do you navigate, Justin, knowing that ahead of time? Is there any kind of playbook? I mean, are you taking anything into consideration, knowing the duress you would have with the amount of miles being put on the air for your players?
Yeah, I think number one, you try to keep in rhythm. You keep on your time. You keep on LA time as best you can. So you fly in late. You keep your fueling, your fueling routine as similar as you can. So we want to spend as much time in Los Angeles as we can, and then we want to fuel.
Is that what you mean by fueling?
Fueling in terms of meals.
Oh,
so when they have pregame meals, when they have, all of the timing should be the same whether you're home or away. And I think that's a strategy that's been employed by the Rams for a long time. They've been fairly successful traveling multiple time zones. and having players show up with life and energy. I think those two are strategies that benefit us a little bit. Anything that we can do to help the players maintain their routine. And another piece that I would say is successful is listening to our players post game from a readiness standpoint, when it comes to activating recovery strategies and maybe how their readiness impacts the tactical build out for the following week. So again, I mentioned, how Coach McVay meets his players where they're at. That's not just a culture or emotional standpoint following a win, but that is very much from a tactical standpoint through a performance lens. Where are you guys at? Where, the game might have been a physical game versus a tough in-division opponent, or it might have been a grass basketball game where a lot of shots were taken over the top. So you have certain percentage of your roster that have been stressed from a high-speed standpoint. So you have to be mindful of your build-out the following week because your position group might be in a compromised state, or it might be a slow, methodical, very physical game. There's a lot of inflammation, a lot of impact to your interior players. So how is coach going to respond with his tactical build out for the following week? So if we won or lost that game the previous week, it doesn't have an impact on the next week. And I think those are strategies that are considered when it comes time to fly across the country or fly out of the country. And sometimes I will say this with your performance and your sports science, there's a side to Coach McVay that I love and he'll check whoop ass. And that means it's a tough turn with travel. It's a tough turn with whatever he's asking for from a tactical standpoint. Maybe you're going against two very physical teams that are fundamentally different in how they play the game. We're built for this. And that's what the messaging that Sean has talked to us about through that run last year and into this year is we're built to manage the storms. We're built to manage the pinch points of travel. Maybe the schedule wasn't as helpful as it could have been from a Thursday night to a whatever game. And I think managing all those can help with the travel, especially since we're used to it, and being built for it is a mantra that you got to check whoop ass sometimes and deal with the adversity, and we'll be all right.
Yeah. Another thing you're going to have to deal with this season is the physicality of the Eagles yet again. And they face, I Bleav, the Rams week 3, knowing that, how do you extra prepare? Do you extra, is there anything in a mindset or like you mentioned earlier, it's week in, week out, you take it week by week, but you're going to go up against a team that is a bruising physical type team like the Eagles. Is there any kind of consideration that goes into the game plan?
I think there's tremendous respect for all opponents that you play with. With the Rams' particular brand of football, one of the things that I most appreciate about Coach McVay is the physicality that he prefers to play with, that he encourages, that he coaches with. And so that allows us as a performance team, as strength conditioning, to lean into max strength, to lean into the heavy weights, to lean into power-based modalities when the opportunity is there. But we're going to live in a max strength environment where we enjoy heavy weights, we enjoy low reps. We prefer to be the physical team. And so if another team has some physicality to them, great. It's going to be a good show. And so I wouldn't say that we prepare any differently for a team. We would hope that the way that we prepare provides our players with the best opportunity to be successful on the field and also available from a week-to-week standpoint. And we'll let the process stack up long-term against whatever they're doing long-term. And that's how we view it.
I mean, because that's not necessarily the most important, bulking up, being a big guy, while that sounds great in theory, may not necessarily be an advantage. Sometimes you want agility or, I think the days of old of being, monster big men. I don't know. Has that changed?
Yes, it has. I Bleav that if you're a professional outfit or a elite college outfit, you should run position-specific lifts and runs. You should lean into the mobility, the power, the the selective strength that your skill players need. They don't want to be restricted when they're reaching overhead for a ball. They have to be resilient enough to make contact with others and the ground, and yet sustain, their level of availability from a week-to-week standpoint. Those are different asks as opposed to somebody closer to the ball that needs a little bit more thump coming from their hands or out of their stance. Maybe they receive more force because they're catching on offense. Maybe they are expected to strike more violently if you're Aaron Donald and firing off the ball. I think any professional or elite strength conditioning outfit should lean into position specific and even tier it with athlete specific lifts, because Puka Nacua does not need the same thing as Rob Havenstein.
Right.
And if you're doing the same thing, well, good luck to you. We'll see you on Sunday.
Yeah, that's amazing. Leaning into the offensive line and even Puka, you guys, I remember hearing Coach McVay mention, I Bleav after the season finished, that he was going to take a look at managing injuries, and you guys had sustained some injuries even before the season started. I remember knowing that's a focus. Does the strategy change? Is there anything you try to focus on? And I have more questions that are just sort of in line with what might be most important if we're going to rank things. But I was curious to get your thought on just sort of knowing that might have been what Coach's focus was. I remember him saying that. What strategies are you guys implementing to try to, obviously everyone's trying to keep injuries from happening. Is there anything different or new you guys are trying to implement?
I think from a year-to-year standpoint, you have to understand that your roster is different. So your rookies are no longer rookies coming into the next year, so they might have different needs once they've experienced the foundational training and the longer season of the pro game. Your veterans are another year older, and they might have even more mileage based on the successes that they've had the previous year. And so you're always adapting your programming to fit your current roster, running something back from 2021 because it worked for you and your injuries were low that particular year. Maybe it was non-contact, maybe it was collision related. Football's a wild game, and you have to be resilient in your approach, versatile and agile in your approach to fit your roster. So I think every year, whether you experience low injuries or high injuries, the number one thing as a performance team that we're going to look at is player availability. And what does it take for this particular roster, these particular players, to benefit from their time with us? Now, we do have some strategies that are consistent from year to year, but from each year, sometimes I think you alluded to it, where if you have a receiver go down in camp, then it puts a lot of more strain on your other receivers. And then there could be a domino effect unless your coaches are willing to adapt to the strategies of what they're given from a personnel standpoint. And then Les and his crew being able to forecast and see based on injury history what type of players and the percentages that they give to us, as far as a chance of them staying available for the course of the season. If you're taking a risk on a high talent or caliber player, but it's been through some ups and downs from injury history standpoint, that's not something that scares us away. That's something that we can lean into. We just have to know that information to be able to appropriately respond with an individual plan for that player, or from with Reggie and our director of performance science, Trent Fry, being able to provide your position coaches and the head coaches with a strategy that might best appeal to this particular player to put him in the best situation to help our football team. So it's highly collaborative, and it is the number one thing that you're doing every year is trying to fit your injury mitigation strategy around your performance, your performance activities that you like to do. You're trying to wrap it around your current roster. So it's never a repeat scenario of, well, I did this last year, I'm going to do it this year. It's always new, and it always feels like year one again. It's never felt like, well, let's run it back. That was fun. You got a different team. You have a different roster. You have a different schedule. So it's always brand new.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And you take what you learned last year, what worked, what didn't work, and you sort of reassess. And like you said, everybody's new, they're advancing a year, or there's some new guys. And if I get time, I would love to ask you about implementing a guy like Terrence Ferguson. But really quickly, of course, I have to ask the all important question, which is rank in most important. Please try if you can. What would you say is most important? If you could rank sleep, nutrition, I'm going to throw hydration in there because I'm going to go with nutrition as fuel, and then exercise. What 1 through 4? What would you say is of most importance?
You're not going to like the answer, but it's contingent. It's you can't really have one effective scenario without the other. If you train hard and don't sleep, where does your body build? Where does your body recover? If you train hard and sleep hard, but don't eat right, then you have a hole in your game. So while your gains might occur, are they sustainable? Maybe your gains occur and they're somewhat sustainable, but your recovery and resiliency from a week to week or even a day-to-day standpoint suffers. We might have players that are running hot because they're young, they love Los Angeles, they're giving their all for the Rams in the weight room and on the field, but yet they're not sleeping as much as they could, or they haven't mastered the strategy of how to best feed and fuel and hydrate their bodies. So then we see a breakdown in quarter 1 or quarter 2 of the season. And so I don't think you can pick one without the other, because if you don't have all of them in the same, with the same importance or an importance, then you might find yourself in a situation. And I would say this, a surprising aspect of what you would say NFL players do that could be surprising to your fans is how much they spend time and effort and money of their own on recovery. All you see in the media, and I have 2 high school kids. Well, one just graduated from Oak Park High School. The other one's going to be a junior. And all they see is the flash and the bang of the training. What they don't see is behind the scenes of how much time that Kyron Williams takes to recover and to repair from the stress that he's accumulated in the weight room and on the field. How much time it takes some of our players to turn their bodies over so they can give their all and not have to auto-regulate on the field and protect themselves. They can go hard and they can go long because they have trust that, hey, their bodies have turned over and the coach has got a great plan for me and I have to execute, and then it's on to the next. So I think that would be surprising from an NFL fan standpoint of just how much time, effort, and dedication goes into recovering. And that also includes fuel, having an individual meal plan, how much time and money that it takes. You have an individual chef. Well, there's a lot of players on this team, and if everybody has individual chefs, that's a lot of money going out into the community. But those chefs are working with our dietitians for strategies. What's going to be a high day tomorrow? Are they going to run a lot? Are they going to hit? Yeah. So your diet should be this. Hey, tomorrow's a recovery day. What would it look like for somebody who's trying to manage their weight for 3 meals a day? What's that look like? There's a lot of effort that goes into all of that. It isn't just maybe the old days in the 2000s where you could run and catch 3 touchdowns or run for 200 yards and go grab fast food. It isn't that way anymore. It isn't.
Yeah. I remember, I think Terrell Davis told me a story because we worked together on NFL Network. He's like, I ate 3 hot dogs, his rookie year, right before the game. Needless to say, didn't feel well afterwards. But I imagine, like you said, nutrition and making sure that's all co-signed with you guys before doing all of that is highly important. And speaking of highly important, I have to, we're in LA. Okay, Justin, the hard-hitting questions that I'm forced to ask as a journalist here, okay? With longevity and anti-aging being something that, people in LA care about. Can you help us debunk in your opinion, the concepts that are always sort of floating around here in the LA area, like red light therapy? Is that actually great for anti-inflammation? Peptides, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, cold plunges, stem cells, all of that stuff. It's some of these things, like you said, there's a lot of flash. Some of them, they're myths. What works, what doesn't?
Yeah,
I'm asking for a friend. This has nothing to do with anything that I care about.
Of course. I think, that's a broad spectrum of performance that sometimes can be unregulated, that sometimes can have valid science or pseudoscience to it, and some things that are great ideas, but just haven't been around long enough to find out what works and what doesn't. I think there's tremendous value in red light therapy. There's cold plunges. There's good research that can help you sift through whatever you have available according to your resources, and help you time those modalities up should you choose to include them. And I think part of it, and we lean into this with our players too, in addition to recovery and nutrition, our players they have a little bit more time, a little bit more money on their hands as they get to be professionals, and their genuine interest is, how do I play this game longer? So I am going to go down this rabbit hole of, I have a red light therapy sauna, and now I'm going to do exercises in it post game. And this works for me. Maybe it'll work for a teammate. And then another teammate will jump on and I do cold plunges on recovery days only. And as opposed to doing them after every lift. So it's really having an intent behind what you're prescribing to from a modality standpoint. I probably couldn't speak on peptides if you were to look at what you think. I've never had, maybe peptides or exposure to that. So I couldn't speak on, I know some are regulated by the FDA, some aren't. And so, I'd probably leave that to Sebastian Zorn to speak on that. And the other one that you mentioned, hyperbaric chambers, a lot of those things, you'll see those roll up in training camp to go in players' rooms, or they have them at their house and they sleep in there and take naps in those chambers, because it's said, and there's research behind it, that would aid in recovery. It would aid in injuries and at just your time frame, speed up your time frame. If it works, and this is similar to strength conditioning, if it works a little, you think it works, well, then it works. It's the placebo effect. So there might be players that want to do something in the weight room or something on the field, and they say it works for them. But I can say from 20 years experience, that probably doesn't do a lot of positive. Is it hurting them? No, but this player really believes in it. So guess what? It works for him. He thinks this is his edge. So we're going to lean into it. So from a standpoint of being in LA, and you're offered all of these different opportunities to, you want to be intentful, you want to choose wisely, and have a targeted approach to the intent of what you want. Do you want less inflammation? Then maybe it's red light or cold plunge. If it's different, dietary, maybe it's weight management with peptides or growth with peptides, then it's talking to a licensed dietitian that can help you navigate exactly what you need, and is activating your resources that are in the Los Angeles area. There's a lot more experts. This place is saturated with experts and high-level practitioners that can give you good advice and good strategies of how to add some of these available modalities into your everyday life. And we're not afraid to activate and use them either. If I have a question, there's a lot of things that I don't know. I'm going to call experts in our area and say, what do you think about this? And I'll tell you what, if it's, a lot of things might work, but if it's feasible on a bigger scale, that's when you see the Rams activate it, and that, which is pretty cool. So we're under the direction of Reggie Scott. I think the Rams are innovative. They're always taking moonshots on, let's try this. Let's try to create our own practice-based evidence around whatever we're trying to do to help our players from a methodology standpoint. Maybe it's training, maybe it's a product, and we'll call experts in the field and we'll try it. Not experimenting on our players, but we'll do our own research to see if it's valid and see if we can audit that product before we roll it out and say, look, guys, we have some studies over here. We did our own research. Certain players like it. Here's an option for you. We're not going to force it to you, but we're going to provide some education around the option that we made available, as I think should be done in any realm.
Yeah, I had heard a rumor that even Sean Payton was like bringing all of his players a certain kind of bed just so that they would get sleep. I don't know if that was true or not. But yeah, of course, it's I mean, obviously Tom Brady really made it popular with all of his recovery and his rehabilitation, and you even, you saw it with Aaron Rodgers trying to get back on the field after that Achilles injury in the same season. And so that's why I think what you do, Justin, is fascinating. Sports science, even the concept of sports psychology it's really relatable. I think if you have pressure on the football field or a baseball diamond, you can feel the same kind of pressure, maybe not in front of millions of people watching you on TV, but you can feel nervous giving a pitch in a boardroom or even, talking in front of a classroom of kids. So I think this type of stuff is fascinating, whether you're a Rams fan or you're just a human. And I've already taken up so much of your time and so grateful for your generosity while you are in Maui and would you be having a Mai Tai? Is that something like that the strength and conditioning coach is like cool with? We get, like, hey, only two drinks. It's very dehydrating. I'm sorry, I had to.
I probably made some players mad yesterday with taking pictures of their drinks. And,
exactly.
Maybe the choice of the drink was suspect, but we'll keep that list of players close. I do have evidence on my phone, so they weren't happy with that. But I would say, I agree with you in terms of, the Rams do a little bit of partnership with Sleep Number. So Sean Payton wasn't too far off because all our players got Sleep Number beds in training camp at Loyola Marymount this past year, and they're going to do it again, I'm sure. Because sleep is very just as important as having a great weight room and having a great training table for your meals. Yeah,
that's great. That's great. Sleep Number. There you go. Well, listen, we won't keep you, but we really appreciate, Justin, your time, your insight, your expertise. It's really been such it's been incredible to watch the Rams do what they did, especially last year, and what they may have dialed in this upcoming season. So I won't keep you any longer. Enjoy Maui, mandatory Maui Camp partnered with Hawaii Tourism. We're so grateful we got the time with you. Thank you, and we'll see you in LA soon, okay?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your time as well.